So now we're going to talk about another method of factoring, and it's called grouping. So factoring by grouping. And quite often when we factor by grouping, there will be 4 terms. So let's say we have xy plus 2y, 2y plus 7x plus 14. Well, the idea behind grouping is that we can group them so that we can factor a little bit, and then we can factor more. Okay, so what I tell students to usually do is just draw a dotted line so that you're grouping them, the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms. Now, this sign right here in the middle is really important. Okay, but we'll get to that. Now, look at just the first 2 terms. So look at just xy and 2y. What's the greatest common factor? What do they have in common? They have a y in common. So I'm going to factor out the y. And if I factor out the y, if I divide them both by y, I get x plus 2. Okay. And then I'm going to put this addition sign right there. That sign just comes straight down. Now I'm going to group the last 2 terms. And again, I'm going to look and see if they have a greatest common factor. So I'm not trying to find the greatest common factor for all 4 terms. I'm splitting it up. Because, by the way, there wasn't a greatest common factor for all 4 terms. There could have been, and we would have done that first, but there wasn't. Okay, so now I'm looking at the back 2 terms, and I'm saying, what do they have in common? And it's a 7. So I have 7 times x plus 2. Now, if my grouping is going to work, what has to happen next is they have to both have a greatest common factor. It is not factored right now because I still have addition. Okay, I have stuff plus stuff. Okay, so I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm saying, is there something they have in common, a factor they have in common? And they do. That x plus 2 is what they have in common. So then I'm going to write the x plus 2. I'm going to write it in the back, but you can write it in the front. And then if you were to take out the x plus 2, you'd have y plus 7 would be the other factor. Now you have stuff times stuff. A lot of times students have a question. They're like, where did the y plus 7 come from? It's the y from there and the 7 from there. Now think about if you were to distribute this, you would go x plus 2 times y, that'd be this part, and x plus 2 times 7, which would be that part. Now you can take it a little further if you want. You could just FOIL this and get it to, multiply to be the original. Y times x, okay, that's xy. Y times 2, which is 2y. 7 times x, and 7 times 2. So that was the original problem. If you multiply it out, it does work. Okay, that's an example of grouping. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, I didn't get all that. That's okay, that's why we have more problems. All right, so now I'm going to look at example 2 here. And I have these 4 terms, x cubed, 4x squared, 3x, and 12. Is there a greatest common factor for all of them? Like, is there something they all have? Do they all have an x? No. Can they all be divided by 3? No. Not and stay in the integers, right? Okay, so remember we're factoring over the integers. All right, so I look, they don't have anything in common. So I'm going to draw my dotted line. And students usually find the dotted line to be helpful. Okay, now I'm going to look at the first 2 terms. Do they have a greatest common factor? Yes, the greatest common factor is x squared. So I factor out the x squared. I get left an x plus 4. And again, if you want to draw the division out, you can do that too. You can just do a quick mental check. Is that times that x cubed? Is that times that 4x squared? Yes. Okay, now go to the other side of the dotted line. I'm going to put this addition sign right there. Now when that becomes a minus sign, we'll do something different, and that's going to happen on the next problem. All right, now I look at these 2. Do they have something in common? A GCF, 3. And then when you take out the 3, what do you get? X here plus 4 here. Again, you can check it. That's 3x and that's 12. Okay, now step back, look at the whole thing. It's not factored because you have stuff plus stuff, right? That addition sign right there. Okay, but is there something that this has in common with this? And the answer is yes. It's x plus 4. So I'm going to put that in the back. Again, if you want to put it in the front, that's fine. And then what are you going to have left in the front, though, for the front factor? It's going to be this x squared right here, because you took the x plus 4 out, and then you're going to have the plus 3. All right, that is multiplied. That is factored. That is stuff times stuff. You can distribute and see if it works, or FOIL it. F, that's x cubed, outer, the O, 4x squared, inner, the 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. Is that what we had at the beginning? Yes. So it all checks out. What's the answer? The answer is what I put in the box. So you're not simplifying. You're changing the form. You're changing it from a bunch of stuff being added and subtracted to stuff times stuff. Okay, one more. I wanted to do one with a negative sign just so you could see what happens. So I'm still going to draw my dotted line. I'm going to look at the front two terms and see what they have in common. They had an x squared in common. So I took out the x squared and I had left x plus 5. Now, this time it's a minus sign there. That's coming down, it's a minus sign. That means I'm going to be factoring out something that's negative. Now, what do 2x and 10 have in common? 2. And then what am I going to have left? Well, I'll get an x from that term because I took out the minus 2. Most people don't have a problem with that. But remember, you factored out a minus 2. So I have left a plus 5. Now check it and see if that's right. Negative 2 times x, that's the negative 2x. Negative 2 times 5, that's the negative 10. Yes, that all is true. Okay. Now, take a big picture of it. Do they have something in common? Now, I'm not done because it's not factored. It's stuff minus stuff. But does this have something that this has? Do they have something in common? Yes, the x plus 5. So I'm going to put the x plus 5 in the back. And then I'm going to have x squared minus 2 in the front. That is a binomial times a binomial. That is factored because you have stuff times stuff. And then you can check it with FOIL. If I do first, I get x cubed. If I do the outer, I get 5x squared. The inner, I get minus 2x. And the last, I get minus 10. That should be what I started with. And it is.